Ciao, Colin. Ciao, Bambini. I'm just going to check this week that the microphone is working. I do see the little bar
It's
going up and down.
yeah, I don't think I can go another round of like having a text conversation with the bots in the chat that we seem to have been
Oh,
infested
that's
with
true.
last
Yeah.
week. That was, and I've never, I don't think I've ever noticed anything like that. I was like, this is the week. This is the week. It's all just happening in one arm.
Yeah. A true meeting of minds. Yeah, that was. We. All right. So no one's mentioned anything in the chat, which is good. I think I'm audible. Yay for us. How are your previous 27 seconds? Tell us some stuff.
They were well, it's January, so it's like New Year, New Me stuff. So I've been in a lot of walking places, which is in Scotland this time of year. It's a choice, but it's been good. So I walk to the next town to kind of do my work in a local pub. And I don't drink while I'm there, but I do get very extremely high on coffee, which is to be experienced. When I come out and people meet me, I'm just like they're like, "Oh, have you just developed like a coke habit suddenly?" But it's be like high on caffeine. So yes, my last 27 seconds has been fresh air and cocaine.
I like that. Yeah. So walking in Scotland in January is a choice, and it's the choice between um, kind of like goth or mod almost. It's like, well, what am I listening to and what am I wearing? Because in my head, it's like, am I is it like a Vanessa Ives kind of or grieving Queen Victoria kind of angle, or is it young Ewan McGregor kicking soundtrack kind of walking in Scotland in winter? That is a choice. I like that.
It's it sure is. What about you? What did you spend the last 27 seconds doing?
Well, so my version of that is my version of a cold choice. I was just explaining beforehand. Is I have embarked. I'm on day 4 or 5 of like a 10-week Wim Hof experience because it's high summer
Nice.
down here, which means it gives me because obviously it gets cold reasonably quickly. Let's say end of March, bit later, but let's just go with that in Tasmania. So that gives me 10 weeks to, he promises, Wim promises that I shall learn to love the cold because I rather like the idea of being one of those psychopaths that come midwinter, gets in like weird bodies of water that may or may not have ice on them. Obviously, the ocean is very cold down here being next to Antarctica, but also we have like mountain lakes everywhere and like glacial lakes and things. I'm like, yes, maybe that's me. Maybe that's the winter flex. I will travel around getting in bodies of water that are like 3 degrees and insisting I enjoy it. But
Fjords as far as the eye can
yeah,
see.
well, we're on day 4 or so of that. It is incredible. Like if people haven't done it, the breathing in the cold. The first day you do it, you have about like 15% more energy. It's bizarre. So that and RuPaul back on the set.
What a time to be alive and a homosexual.
Yeah.
She's back again, and she's got another season, which presumably will last 4 years. I don't know how long was the last
We
one.
could do a whole nother deck. Yeah.
Well, we may have to just to parse out what we're dealing with psychologically on
Yeah.
a weekly basis with this.
Cautious optimism about this season, so pretty happy.
It seems
Cautious.
all right. I think they're I think so. Maybe a fun kind of outcome of like lockdowns and pandemics and things is that enough queens have had time to like practice and get really like like it's been going on for so long. It's like they're really trudging the bottom of the ocean to kind of find the fish of the day, and it's not. Sometimes it's been kind of like a bit kind of lackluster. Maybe like a couple of years of people really just sitting in their rooms like thinking, if I die, I need to die glamorous.
Yeah.
They've really upped their
You do end up with
game.
more Instagram queens, but you're right. Like if people are stuck at home for 2 years,
Yeah.
it gives them time to go, you know what?
Jeez.
Fuck it. I'm gonna dress as a woman in my house and take pictures of myself with my phone.
I'm gonna wear flip-flops on the main stage.
All
Oh.
right. I should. I mean, I'm working on the book too. I guess I should mention that it's not. It hasn't just been all cold showers. It's been really fun. I'm kind of getting back into it, and now we're in the stretch of actually just daily word counts. So I have to write to hit my publishing target. I have to write a bit under 1,000 words a day, which doesn't sound like much, but it's every day, and it's fun. It's kind of this. It's like a cruising altitude part of the book where you just kind of hit it and go word, until it's done. So that's also going to be this coming week, I think, and the rest of January and most of Feb. But yes,
nice.
What shall we start with? So you worked on some previous cards this week. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Anchor in a minute. One of my favorite cards.
Yes.
But shall we? Is there anything else we want to talk about before we jump into what you got up to?
I think we're good. I think we can't go into any more detail on your cold showers because this becomes a different kind of show. So
yeah, true.
Let the show go on.
This is more the pre-show chat. That's what you should have done for the Patreon. You should, yeah.
That's OnlyFans. That'll be an OnlyFans. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, let's begin with the moon, where you gave Konsuan a nose job.
Yes, we did indeed. And again, that was just the ticket. It's it makes it look less, or it makes the effect is that it's less kind of skeletal and kind of, like Michael Jackson before he got the nose job fixed, and just kind of brushed it out and sort of shaded it into the sort of shape of the moon a little more, so that it's there, but also it could, it's there, but it's not there, but it's there. So we've fitted it in.
Yeah, it's better. It's interesting. The new nose, it's almost like it's too close to the lips.
What do you think?
What do you reckon?
Let me just...
Maybe not. I'm going to lean in because we're not.
Oh, maybe because I highlighted I highlighted the lips, so that might have reduced the space in between them because I highlighted it with she really did get ready for the main stage. I put lip gloss in this bit. Yeah. So maybe I can take the highlight off of it, which would be fine. But that's not a big issue to change.
Yeah, it's not. If not, just drop it down slightly. And
the great thing about nose jobs is you can always get another one.
That's true. And lip filler.
Indeed.
I mean, she's the moon. She's older than the Earth. Like the moon is literally older than the Earth. So she looks good. Looks good for her age.
For her age.
Yeah. All right. No, this is really looks great. It's heading in exactly the right direction. As is my son Toby. Going back to the child card.
We it removed the sort of overexposed hand, which was which looked like it was looking like a little bit like he had mutant powers, where it was just sunshine coming out of his hand. I think I was going for an effect and just had to kind of take it down. Added more detail to the clothes and the denim, and a few more bits, a few more touches, just to kind of make things pop. But he's looking cute. He's looking playful. He's looking very childlike. What do you think?
It's really good. It's heading in. Still things that weren't quite right about it that I couldn't articulate are sort of going away. But some of it is that uncanny valley stuff, right? Where you just drawing humans is kind of, it's why it's been magical for 200,000 years to do so. There's something sort of vaguely creepy about it. But he's less creepy now and more cute, and it has the kind of the traditional energy, the energy of the traditional card associations, I guess.
Indeed. I think it's one of those ones where it needs a little adjustment. Maybe just put it away for a week and then concentrate on other cards, and it'll come back in. There's some like the bear where I just hadn't touched it, and then I came back and I was like, oh, I know exactly what I was missing with this, and then it kind of comes out. Subconsciously, you'll be walking down a street or indeed walking to the pub, and I'll just be like, oh, okay, that's exactly what I need to do. And so what happens with me is, much like Romeo and Michelle, there are just post-its everywhere of things like that. Out of nowhere, I'm like, this is the thing I need to do now. So I'll wait for one of those to kind of pop up.
Right. So now I'm picturing something that's actually kind of creepy. If they're context-free, post-it notes, you might have, when visitors come by, just on a wall, a post-it note that says a realistic child's hand. The fuck is that?
Dude, once again, if this iPad or my Google account or whatever gets into the wrong hands, I'm toast. I am going down with Ghislaine It's not going to be
True.
good.
Pictures of cute brown children. Yeah.
Feet, Gordon. Like what? Like everything is referenced. So I'm like toddler's foot. Like it's not. I don't feel happy about it. And then obviously all these images are saved on like one giant screen of photos. So every time I go to show someone something, I was like, "Don't worry about that. It's just work." Like these,
Just
it's
look. What do
time
you
is
do?
ticking on me. It's a ticking time bomb.
You'll be summoned to the prince's defense at this rate. Yeah.
It's don't worry, I don't sweat, so it's fine. That's the
Awesome. All right.
Botox,
And
obviously.
now, because this week was, well, the week just gone, was the fish card. And I fucking love it.
Yes.
Let's play the tape. Look at this shit.
It's nice. That yeah, it took a lot. It was a lot more work, just with the detail and stuff. So I didn't get as much of the other cards rounded up, but I'm really happy with it. I think this is like again, this is one where like you come with like hot ideas, and we've developed this kind of format with these cards where like there is something kind of in the top third, and it's kind of you know it's and once you have the format, and it helps make I think the deck more of a cohesive kind of piece, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
Um, I have more detail to work into and like make it more shimmery for the fish, or like maybe highlight the kind of main tunas. But yeah, I like it. It was fun to draw, and then again, that's another one. That is the opposite of baby feet, where it's just screeds and screeds of gondoliers and stuff for reference, which is
Yeah.
great.
No, this is cool. It's really good. It's exactly the kind of energy that we wanted. I was expecting more of an ornate fishing boat, but I actually think I like the gondolier more because it has more of that Venetian wealth association.
Yeah. I
Which
kind of want to. I think kind of just although it's because you mentioned about the festival. I think just even though it wouldn't be a gondolier, I think just
people get it.
making that known that it's Venice. Like
Yeah. And this motherfucker's
it's
just
in
like
there.
sailed out of the lagoon, just like into the Med.
Yeah, he is making a run for it.
Yeah. He
Okay.
actually doesn't own that gondolier. He's
No,
literally
he does
still.
not. He sure does not. I think Uber probably does at this point.
Yeah. It looks amazing. It's exactly the kind of energy. And again, it's one of the ones where I'm surprised that most people, well, most cards, if at all, well, I have to check that amazing possum deck again. But I'm surprised that no one's gone with this angle. Like, tuna is the ultimate, well, cod is the other one, but they're not as attractive a fish, is the ultimate, like, wealth of the sea, right? And that's the whole sort of point of fish and that kind of deeply ancient Jupiterian association. I love it. I think it's really cool. So well done.
Yeah, I think to finish it off, I'm going. The waterline is bugging me because that's like that GoPro effect thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of replicate as an illustration, but I know that because the when I did the artwork for the show, that's kind of more of a comic booky kind of style. So there's like lines and things, but there's a bit more work there to go, and I think just more detail in the background where there's kind of a blue expanse, so maybe make it look more underwater and just add detail to like the shimmering of the fish and stuff.
Yeah, cool. No, it looks really good. It's and I didn't. I mean, it's you drew it, so you get it's your eye that's gonna be annoyed by it. But I absolutely instantly get that kind of GoPro thing just by looking at it. So don't lose your mind over it like it's a toddler's foot.
You're like, don't fixate on it for 6 more weeks because we don't have the fucking time.
Yeah, you're gonna get back to those Denzel Washington blowjobs.
Can't wait.
Awesome. No, I love it. I think it's going to be a really, really good card. Oh, that's one of the other things I should mention and it's mostly people in the replay who actually bought the complete Fool packs. Hopefully we'll sort of know, what have we got? Within the next 2 weeks, because it's funny, I wanted to get the website up so that the people who bought the 36 packs that come with the course and everything can vote on the artwork. But we still have a couple of cards left to do, and I have some really cool plans for the cross. So within the next couple of weeks, there will be a voting page up for people to kind of nail down what we want as the posters for those packs, because I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, we can have that conversation because I'd finished off the South card, and I posted it on TikTok like a good little content maker. And I was like, I don't want to put the frame on it because I want people to see like so behind all these insets, there's artwork, and I was like, no, I want people to see the full thing, just the image as it is. So it'll be interesting to see if people want the poster with the inset on it or
Yeah,
that kind of thing. But I don't know.
that we'll do
Up to
that
you
as a
guys. Obviously, they paid for it. It will be up to them.
yeah, we'll do that as a separate message or
Mm,
separate like thing to vote on because I don't know, it will be their decision. I'm of two minds about it. On the one hand, I like the idea of not, but
yeah.
by the same token, I also really like the idea of having like a large Lenormand card as a poster rather
Mm,
than because again, like just going back to razzing you about Toby, let's say they're perverts and they pick the child card
yeah.
as the poster, then they're stuck having to explain like, why do you have a picture of
Why?
Angela Bassett's kid? In
Yeah. Who like looks like yeah. Who looks like a Boston Dynamics product.
yeah. All right. Well, that's another thing to look forward to because yeah, it might even swing on whether or not it's a. Uh, no, we actually do need to know that, right? Because if they pick one that has one of the court cards on it, then it's
Mm,
that you can't start working on posterizing until that's done. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. All right, we'll get the page sorted and reach people for that. It's fun getting to this end of it. Yeah.
I know it's real, guys.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah. I don't think
exciting.
James realizes what works ahead of him because he has to do like the book layout and manage the printing and so on.
Mm.
So we're getting to the end of our bits.
It's yeah, that's I was talking to someone about the print. I think I said last week as well, like the printing process is that's when like from like a designer's point of view, that's when like the stress comes in because you're like, why is this not working? Why is this not working? And then obviously we outsource it. We're not sitting here cutting cards up ourselves, but it's like a process. Which well, a bunch of people have made decks, so they will attest to this. Like
Yeah.
the making digital art and then doing the show, but then producing it for the real world is like it's a whole nother it's a whole nother angina attack, put it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, we should be talking about the Anchor, which is the second last card, and it's a weird one. It's because the Game of Hope originally, the game that came out in whatever it was, 1799, that is part of the DNA of the Lenormand in general, has the Anchor as the winning place for your token to land on. Card 35 is actually like the winning, sort of like Game of Life, frankly, where you had to land on one bit. Not that I ever played it because that game was from the 70s and 80s, but I heard about it and I watched a YouTube video on it, where you could actually overshoot the finishing point. It's sort of that same idea with Game of Hope, and it's kind of weird because it's sort of about Christianity and Christian virtues. The cross was the one you didn't want to land on, which is the final card, and the one you wanted to land on was the anchor. And the anchor, particularly for like Germans, it's almost like a repeat of the ship card. It's the idea of successful business dealings to do with the sea, right? Like trade and so on. But it's also supposed to be the stabilizing anchor of Christian virtues. So to land on that card, and that's kind of why it's sort of an unusual card to get your head around from a fortune telling perspective, because as a game token, it's the winning piece, which is so odd in a lot of respects, because there's already a ship, but there's also like better cards like the house and things, which you'd think anyway, whatever. But that's the final card, and so it's kind of, it has that DNA in a fortune telling perspective. So it's obviously one of stability and being and generally positive. So when it's near good cards, it's good, if that makes sense. So if it's a relationship reading and one of the cards is an anchor, in most cases that's really good because that's showing like a stable, healthy relationship. If it's if it's around wanting to leave a husband or something, maybe not so good. But it's one of the ones that modifies the most depending on what's around it. Good cards, good. Bad cards, you're stuck in a situation. Something's holding you back. Something's dragging, literally like an anchor. So it's really phenomenological. The anchor itself is, it's when you want an anchor is when you're in a port and a safe harbor at the end of a journey. When you don't want it is when it's like dragging on things or stuck and you're trying to get away because there are brigands or whatever, right? So the phenomenology of being anchored in place is the most important part, and it's why it's kind of oddly complex. It's the winning game card that is good when it's good and bad when it's bad. And so we kind of have to catch that. It's generally a good love card. We've got a bunch of them in the deck because it is for it's a bourgeois kind of like parlor game. There's all kinds of flowers and the rest of it. But it's generally, you look for it as stability, because it's typically women, or historically women reading for women about when they get married. So whilst it's not officially a marriage card, it's even better than that. It's like stability and financial safety and all those good things. But it is also, and I'll explain this when we jump to cunt board. Everybody hold your breath. Hooray. All right. So it needs to convey all that kind of good stuff. Like, it's a generally good card. It's stable. It is an anchor, right? Which also, interestingly, according to Camellia anyway, if you're doing a health reading, it's referencing the hips, or because obviously the anchor kind of vaguely looks like hips. It's got that same kind of dual shape to it. Or it can be chronic conditions because you're being constantly dragged down by something. But it's also the end of a journey. So it's like you arrive somewhere and weigh anchor in a safe harbor, which we'll get to. And because it's another underwater card, and more so than the fish, we just did the fish that way, it's a card of hidden depths. So that's one of the things, and plumbing hidden depths. It's the other side of the adventuring of the ship card, right? So obviously it's going to have an anchor on it. And the ones that I picked here, this one is oddly dark on this screen. Load up. Why is it such a slow website? Terrible. Anyway, this is kind of cute. And obviously ours would be more Kraken-y, but I quite like the idea. We were working out how we were going to get the Kraken back into the anchor card. And it's not going to be, it's not like you weighed anchor next to a Kraken, because again, it's a stable good card. It's not, you're about to be attacked by the Kraken. So I quite like the idea of it, of having a anchor that has something like this, right? Like that general octopus vibe, or Kraken vibe in our case, same sort of thing. Maybe not the octopus head, like even if it's just the tentacles, but we'll see how you go with that. Yeah. And I like the carvings on this. Ours would be more of the Chaos Star idea somewhere on it, but I quite like the idea of a carved ornate anchor, right? Just generally speaking. Yeah,
I'm waiting for it to load.
So our version of this, maybe it's at the top, where it's got that. Maybe the rope hook at the top of the anchor. It probably has a real name that I certainly do not know. Maybe the rope hook at the top is like a Chaos Star or something. That could work quite well. And yeah, so I like the idea of a carved ornate anchor that's mostly to do with the Kraken look. And I got this. So I just actually Googled for like image search of like the world's biggest motherfucking anchors. Just because I'm not sure if I want like the sort of anchors you use for an aircraft carrier or not. And we'll get to the why in a sec. But that one's kind of cool. I think ours is just going to be... Go on.
Sorry, when you sent that the anchor with like the carving in it, I was like, oh, that's pretty. That's like that will make a good detail.
Yeah, excellent. Because I wasn't sure if this one here in the desert. What I like about this is it's a cool idea and a cool image. Ours is obviously going to be underwater, but I like the chain coming up, because I sort of think I'll talk about the background in a minute, but because the inset is the 9 of spades, you can actually have the anchor chain going like not centered, but like straight up the middle over the entire card in a fun way. Because there's actually, the card in some respects is going to be busy, and it's a perspective challenge again, I think. Let me get this. So I want the card to. This is where we get the hidden depths component, and there's some story behind this. I want the card to essentially be weighing anchor, accidentally or not, at effectively Atlantis. And Atlantis in the Caribbean Mayan sense of the term. That's actually, Greg had some Edgar Casey guy on the show about a month ago on High Side Chats. And he was talking about, which I think is broadly correct, I've written about it for a long time, whatever we call Atlantis was a Caribbean civilization, right? And so, and you can find, so it's not going to look exactly like this. It's going to be a little bit more Maya, but I like the idea of, it's almost like the anchor. It's not clear because it needs to do that it needs to do that double duty from a message perspective. It's not clear if they have found Atlantis, like, hey, we found it, drop anchor, or if the anchor's kind of like, they don't know it's there and the anchor's kind of like caught on it, right? So I'm picturing this as the sort of background stuff fading into the gloom, and the anchor definitely, front and big, because again, it's the main part of the card, so people need to be able to look in the tableau and find a big anchor. You can't have like a teeny little anchor chain coming down in front of that mausoleum thing with the angel on it, just to use this example, right? So this is all, it's going to be another perspective challenge, but you're quite good at that. And I want the anchor kind of dropping probably on, that was the other reason, let me jump back to it, onto a sandy bottom, almost phrasing. All right, no, fuck you, cunt board. That was the other reason why I liked the card that looks like anchors dropped in a desert, because it's quite a good. I hate this website. I'm going to be so happy to leave this website. I quite like this. I quite like the sand on this one, right? So that's the general idea behind the card, I guess, is weighing anchor at, because it's got that hidden depths thing. And again, there's a story which I was told, I think I mentioned this on the solo show I did about the whiskey rant, but I met and was flirting with when I was about 19 or 20, this Sri Lankan guy who was staying with some of my friends in Newcastle. And I was about to say it was the 90s. Impossible. I'm 27. But let's pretend it was the 90s. Or I really liked the 90s. And so I was big into Graham Hancock and like Fingerprints of the Gods and all that kind of stuff. So I was aware that there were ruins around the coast of Sri Lanka, because there are of India and whatever as well. So I kind of mentioned that and how like fishermen's nets get caught on these ruins sometimes. And he looked at me and he's like, how did you know that? And I thought I was in. I was not in. It did not work. But that like, nailed
shot
it.
Your shot.
Nailed it. Like, he was impressed, just not impressed
enough.
Good times. Anyway, that's the story of the anchor card.
That's the fun sync of the week, I guess. Last week I was talking about how I was on a kind of 90s tip, which again impossible because I wasn't alive during it.
We just like vintage.
Totes. So it progressed from like movies to, while I was working it, I watched a playthrough of the first Tomb Raider game. And the whole sort of premise is that the villain is like an Atlantean kind of queen or such. She's like part of a triumvirate or something. She's really cool. So yeah, there you go. Atlantis has found its way into the...
Did I hear that correctly, that you watched a playthrough of the first Tomb Raider game?
Yeah.
Beginning to end?
I don't know. It was. Well, so here's the thing. See, when I was a kid, when presumably someone would be a kid playing that in the 90s, it took like weeks and weeks and weeks to kind of complete.
Yeah.
But because people our games have obviously advanced and people have been playing it for whatever it is, 25 years, they can do like a playthrough in like 2 hours or whatever, like of the full game because they know exactly where they're going and all the puzzles and stuff. And it's also interesting to look back and think, oh, in my head, this was like the most impressive graphics. And you look back and it's like, Lara literally looks like a kid's drawing of like an extremely sexual woman. But yeah, there you go. So that was Atlantis had found its way into my content absorption this week without us even having you hadn't even mentioned this to me. So
And there's a Venice
voila.
sequence. There's a Venice sequence in that, isn't
Oh
there?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
I was saying to Chantel in the chat that Venice is one of my favorite places, and truly the I was like as I said at the beginning of this whole show, I wanted to go and travel to Cambodia before the lockdowns. Mostly
You
the
just want to
places on
go to
my
Tomb
list are
Raider
like
places. Yeah.
Tomb Raider locales,
Yeah,
yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's I am the worst kind of person.
yeah. So I don't know
But
if
you know,
this is a sync.
you've got to build a list from somewhere.
I don't know if this is a sync. I hope not. But so that whole, and I think there's a song in South Park about it, like, where were you when those towers came down? That kind of like question of what were you doing on 9/11, like that morning in New York? I was playing the first Tomb Raider game.
That's right. Yeah, you mentioned before. Oh, there you go. I was being born, but never mind.
Yeah, there you go. Like, exactly on September 11th. I do not have a good natal chart.
You know, you've got to have consistency with us, Gordon. It's really a part of the call.
Yeah. We don't want, yeah, let's not let the mask slip and go, wait a minute, they're not 27.
Yeah. What? Wait. Yeah, this is all just filters. Like we're actually broadcasting via TikTok.
Cool. Well, yeah. So what do you think? Tell me, what are your thoughts on the card?
So I like it when I do like it when it's a challenge or there's some kind of challenge presented because it's like a puzzle, which again, possibly because of my history with Lara Croft, that's just baked in that I enjoy a puzzle. Um, I would see we want obviously the anchor is the main anchor, the chain going up through the inset is cool. So I guess there would be in the foreground there would be ruins and it would be stone. It's all underwater, so there'd be like a water tones and kind of effects and things. Um, and I guess the Atlantean kind of the hint to the story there is that it would all be in the background. So
Yes.
and because it's a perspective thing, it could be like tiny details of like
Yes.
a ruined city underwater and all that kind of stuff, which is great because it means you get to have more, and also because it's a fictional city, you get to have like fun with like the architecture and
Yeah.
do kind of
You are welcome to be
something about.
inspired by the first Tomb Raider for sure.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
should have taken screenshots. God damn it.
And so,
So
like, a
yeah,
good
there's
example of
like
what I mean,
a
like perspective wise. So, if you think of the dog card,
mm,
that's a good example. I'm picturing the anchor sort of landing on sand,
yeah.
almost dead center, but not real. I actually quite like the angle, although that one's going. It's looking to the left. Maybe we do it to the right. This will be reversed for people watching it. If you look at the image, actually, I'm just going to jump back to it. So if the dog card's a good example of it. So I'm picturing the anchor again, not exactly dead center, but pretty fucking close. Not as far to the left or the right as something like the dog card, landing in sand, and that's the front of it basically. And then perspective wise, kind of like how the forest at the end of the clearing is there for the dog card. That's where the sunken city emerges out of the gloom. That's kind of what I'm thinking, because the anchor needs to be big in the same way the dog needs to be big on a dog card. Not as big as the dog, obviously, because I quite like it does need to be hidden depths. So this is going to be the challenge. So perspective wise, it's going to be front, but it's probably the anchor itself is probably only going to take up a third of the height of the card, maybe about a third, because I do like, I have many memories of this from scuba diving, particularly in Chuuk in Micronesia, where you descend down the anchor line to a wreck. And it's really fun, especially if it's a deep dive, because you get in and you can just see blue, and then you just kind of like descend down or beside the anchor line. If there's low vis, you descend down it. Like hand over hand, but otherwise you just kind of descend next to it, and this wreck emerges out of the gloom. But it's also fun to kind of look up when you're waiting to leave and sort of have it. So I have this distinct impression, if the card's going to be hidden depths, there needs to be enough chain on the card to kind of indicate that. Right. So that's sort of important, I think.
Yeah, and it won't be I guess there will be light in it because if you can drop an anchor, then it's
Yeah.
you can still, I guess, see some of the sunlight at the top of the image,
Well, you'll
sort
certainly
of coming
see. So what
down.
you want to do is look at a depth of about 11 meters in 11 or 12 meters in the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico. And you'll find
Right.
like reference shots for that. So there will be like, there's no, unlike the fish card, there's no surface on this card at all. Like the whole thing is underwater, but you
Yeah.
get light, the light level of about 11 to 12 meters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, cool. And then obviously as you sort of crop, there's a good depth of field potential in this one.
Yeah.
So as you sort of go further and further, you see bigger ruins, but they're obviously smaller because that's how perspective works. Uh, yeah, this is what it's like last week where it comes fully formed, which is always a gift. I can and it has and we've been working in this kind of with the fish and with the tones of like the water tones and all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of moving from one to the next. Maybe that's where the gondola guy is going. I don't know. He was going out to Atlantis, just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
The gondolier, I should say.
Cool. All right. Yeah. I think that's all I need to say about it. This one, I think you're going to do well with this as well. If you have that Lara Croft Atlantis
Yeah, and that
vibe,
vibe.
right? Because this could be a
And
poster one. Like there's a lot of
yeah,
story in this card, which is important because it is again how we do the fortune telling thing. This is the winning place in the game of hope.
yeah.
The card was originally called Hope, so a game of
Mhm.
hope. It's about the anchor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Um,
Cool.
so
Nice. It also presents a kind of opportunity to like bring not we obviously the word theme is has become something of a dirty word in the fortune telling card realm, but because we have the kraken on the or some kind of kraken in the cover when we and the packaging when we sort of reveal that, and then it's in the final image, the final winning card or the winning card. I think that's it's an interesting wrap on the kind of story of the game of it. So
yes.
yeah, I'm into the elements of it that are all kind of very intentionally sort of all gluing together.
Yeah, it's an eerie process, isn't it? I mean, we make jokes about cinematic universe, which is the term I invented, but
Yeah,
by the time you get to the end of it, you're like, wow, it's real. It's actually a
we did
thing.
it, Joe. We did
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I'm excited. We're at that stage now where the next card is the cross, and that's the final card,
That's the
right?
lucky last.
That is,
Yep.
yeah. Lucky last. Where I'm excited to I'm excited to brush everything off and bring, and then we'll I guess presumably in the future we'll do like a reveal, which will be I think probably at some reasonable time where you can have a cocktail.
Oh, I'll drink now. Fuck
um,
it. Yeah, yeah.
so I think I'm excited to kind of to see it all kind of just sort of the tableau of it and kind of see everything kind of work together.
Yeah, it'll
It's
be
the next
fun.
this is that's the terrifying and most stressful part, but also it's the most exciting part I think of the whole process
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
pulling off the heist of the century. Lenormand would truly be proud.
Yeah. I just finished up. I think whether it's historically accurate or not is for historians to determine. But I just feel that we've got a bit of Lenormand's personality, the bravery to say
Yeah.
it that other people have. Because I just finished that bit in the book. It's like, who was Madame Lenormand? Because every like book that goes with the Lenormand deck has to explain why it's named after this icon who kind of had nothing to do with it, and that was the sort of point. And I continue to make my case as to, in fact, there is a reason and kind of like a good animist sense for it. But I'm happy with the direction of this card as well. I think this is going to be good. Very exciting. So what else are you going to fuck around with? We'll do the inset and the song afterwards, but no, we'll do that first because the inset's easy. And it's one of the ones that doesn't. It's one of them. I tried to make the inset work in every single card. And I can with this one as well, but it's not great. Like the 9 of spades is a war card. It's total all out war because it's spades are swords, so that's kind of violent. And 9 is typically, when you're playing card reading, the maximum amount, because the 10 card is a conclusion. So so a 10 of spades might be November 11 at 11:11 a.m. kind of stuff. Like it's the end of war. 9 is Battle of the Bulge or something. Like it's total crazy fucking war. Or Beaches of Normandy, that kind of thing. So it's a total war card. Now you could be like, oh, is it Ships of War or what have you? You can go down, and this is valid, and this is how I'm going to do it, because typically it's this, the clubs that are the cards to do with work, but spades obviously dig. And so you can make, when the card was called Hope, and it was about, in a German sense, successfully completed business performed by sea. That is like the ship coming in, and it's like, well, when the ship comes in, there's a lot of work to do. You got to unload the ship and blah blah blah. So that's how I'm doing it. It's not great.
I think that's because isn't the ship card is spades as well, isn't it?
From memory, yes.
Yeah. So and it will be a progression of them, because I don't think there isn't a 10 of spades.
Yeah.
So yeah, it congeals into an appeasing kind of story, appealing story.
It's not as neat as the other ones, but it's just more important to know where the war card is, and if you're in conflict with someone at work, and you get the anchor. And let's do it this way. So 9 is not the completion of war; it's total war. So it actually could be. So when the anchor card describes a situation of when you're being stuck or being dragged down by something. So let's say you're in conflict with someone at work, and the final card is some sort of relation, because again, they're all relating to the anchor. Then it's sort of like you are stuck. You can't see the end of this war. You can't see the end of this conflict. Like it's going to drag on quite literally for a while. So that's how I'm going to do it. That's how I'm going to justify it. But that would be when you need the nuance of the inset. That's how you'd find it, I think.
Yeah, I think it feels thick. That's what I'll say. Like, and the good says not thick as in dummy, not dummy thick.
Dummy thick's good. What are you talking about?
Filled with potential.
Yeah. Awesome. The song was challenging for this one. We chatted about it beforehand. A couple of reasons, because it's the card is heavily modifiable by what's around it. So it's a good card with good and not good when it's not. So it's like, well, what do I fucking do with that for a start? But also, songs about stability aren't...
because again, musicians are almost as bad as artists for being just massive crackheads. Like, so it's not like it's not really the forte of the media.
Yeah. So I went down the Hope angle, which is the original name of the card and where it gets the game from. And it is still that, right? Like, so Hope is an anchor and that kind of, when it's a positive card of dropping anchor in a safe haven, and you kind of like give praise after a long journey. So I went with, just to be gay for a change, When You Believe, a Mariah Whitney duet.
Cool. I mean, chef's kiss, obviously, and I enjoy that. It was Whitney was the choice for the women card.
Oh yeah.
So like and this is the Vanessa deck as well as all the other types of deck that it's turned out to be. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this kind of I enjoyed the kind of which I think was also a spade card. The women card is a spade card, isn't it? It's the ace of spades, isn't it? It's all coming together, guys. But yeah, it's a gorgeous song. And back in the day again, well, no, I think we could have bet to Being Alive for that one, because that was like the early 2000s.
No.
Mind blowing to have like Mariah and Whitney, because there was a video as well.
It's got to be 90s, because it was for Prince of Egypt.
Oh, was it? Okay, well.
Yeah.
We must have got it off early Netflix when they were sending out DVDs to people. Like the video was crazy because it was like they were in a studio together, and you're like, that's not they don't exist in the same universe. That can't be a thing like that. It felt true.
Yeah.
Before Marvel Cinematic Universes, we had like the gay cinematic universe of
And
like
if
two icons coming together.
and if you watch the YouTube video of them both on stage, which I think is actually the clip, what is plainly happening is that they're competing, which is
Yes.
really, really interesting because obviously Whitney had a untroubled run through the 80s of just being the ultimate songstress. And that was, Mariah was coming up in the 90s. And you can literally hear them compete over who can do like the warbling, that kind of real 90s songstress warbling
Yeah.
better. And I like that.
It's like never rest in your laurels,
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, awesome. I went with you went with stability. I went with like strength because again, stability was it's a hard kind of as for like for music, it's a hard kind of thing to find. Um, so I went with again another extremely heterosexual option. I went with Britney Spears' Stronger.
I get it.
Um, and it's more like the story of Britney Spears, where she's laying anchor down now. We're finding out that she's actually more crazy than we ever thought she was, which I fully support. Also, it's a great song. I will forever. I think I know that weird CGI chair choreo like off by heart at this point. Must do. It's in the brain there somewhere.
Well, next TikTok.
Potentially my last.
um, all right. So what are you doing this week? What's going on?
So I worked on the tower a little this week, but because the fish card was it was more detail than I kind of bargained for, it's kind of sitting in the to do pile. So tower card. Uh, I'm just going to say it, right? I'm going to say it because it's the last card next week, right? And then I'm going to go off and finish things off while we
Well,
sort out
we
the
need to
insets and
work that
things.
out. We need to work out how we're going to, because we'll certainly be back to do court cards and all the rest of it, but I don't know if it's going to be weekly. We'll find out.
Yeah. But I'm gonna say the house card just for the shits of it. Like
Oh,
I
that's
need to
crazy.
because I was messaging you about it. Like, what does this need? And I need to just face my fears, and just do it. Because I don't want to leak all the other cards that they're all set. The heart even is still we know what we're doing with it, but the house card it's in its final stage. But I want to have it wrapped and have a little input and have it on the show before we kind of finish the main
So
body of the deck.
what if it
And it's the anchor
needs,
card, right?
yeah, the anchor. That's why I think you got too much go. I like the idea of tower and anchor in the one week because it's sort of small, ornate architecture. So it's kind of like same
Yeah.
sort of energy. But it's if you do all three, because you're talking about the lawn in front of the house card at the moment, or there's something about it that's missing. What if, and this is a big if, and it'll only become apparent as once you're done doing the Lara Croft ruins. What if what it needs is like an artifact from Atlantis, like a sort of statue
That's
or
very cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I like that. That because that again plays into my my weird at this point hypersexual relationship with Tomb Raider where you like have an artifact collection. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
like
That is cool.
so almost like an Olmec head meets
Hmm.
a like a sort of traditional Turtle Island totem pole, because I can sort of see it
Yeah.
being carved stone and vertical, or something like that, just on that lawn at the beginning. If it doesn't work, we can take it out, right? But if you're going to be finding the ruins of Atlantis in this cinematic universe,
Yeah,
which is the term I
yeah. No,
invented,
I like that. I like that.
yeah,
Because it's in the card, if anyone can remember the last time we saw the house card, it is just like a lawn, and it's like maybe it takes up maybe a quarter of the page, but for me, it's just too much to have nothing going on.
yeah.
So yeah, that could be the one.
There we go.
We shall see.
All right. Yeah, fun. So that's I'm obviously going to be working on the book, and there's actually some kind of funny parts of it. It's actually going to be. It's definitely my funniest book. Oh shit! I should mention that by the time. And this is eerie, right? So next week is the last card, So card 36, we're finished, is also the week that the pre-orders open for Animistic, which is almost, they've had it for a year. A year in April. And I was trying to get it out last year, not that I have any control over it. And frankly, neither do they because of everything that's going on in the world. So it's not like a burn or anything. But I didn't want it to come out at the same time as Fortune's Fools because I want to be able to promote one and then the other. And they probably still won't. Like, I think the book will be out in Feb and the cards will be out end of the quarter, right? But it's weird that they've both have the same finish week. Like, we finished the deck and the book is officially available. That's just crazy. Like, that's one of those things you go, trying my goddamn hardest to keep them apart. But if you do those two things concurrently, which they did, it's weird. Anyway, weird. But that'll be my other news for next week, that we'll be finishing off the deck and the book will be available. There you go.
Awesome.
All right. Anyway, the Fortune's Fools book, some parts of it are really funny. And so I might share little screen grabs from it in the Telegram group when it's the fun. I don't know if that happens with illustrating, but with writing, you can kind of, there are moments, a lot of the time it's a slog and painful, but there are some times where you feel quite self-congratulatory, like that is actually quite good.
Yes. So. Yeah. When I last week, when I can't remember, it wasn't the day of the show, but whenever I'd put the bear that was done, and like I just got this rush of like, I was like, I'm the best at this. This is amazing. Like, it lasts about a solid 2 hours, and then you kind of have to get back to reality. You're like, I did a little dance in the living room, like it was a whole thing. But I think that's part of because I think if you're going to do anything like this, anything creative and like do it properly, you really do have to congratulate yourself at some point, because 90% of it is torture. And then you have to take that 10% and fucking run with it.
Absolutely. All right, speaking of running with it, we should, metaphorically anyway, do that. Don't get a body like this by running. And this is good. I'm really excited to see the Anchor / Lara Croft card. Again, just it's a deck of icons. And thanks everyone in the chat again, and a lot of love for Venice. And we'll see you next week for lucky last of the deck.